Hi there, welcome back, beautiful souls. How are you feeling today? So what's been coming through in the last few days is that when we are expecting things to show up a certain way, we may have already missed the signs and the information that has already come through. Now, what this always takes me back to is some of my spiritual friends. You know, they sit there and they seem to think, I love them dearly, by the way, but they seem to think so many times that spirituality looks a certain way. This may be you. So perhaps today this message is for you. Do you have a belief that to be spiritual looks a certain way? You need to look a certain way. Perhaps you shave off your hair, you put on an orange robe. Perhaps for you, spirituality is to go and sit on top of a mountain and there's no distractions, no one around for miles and miles and miles and miles. Let us know in the comments below, what does spirituality look like to you? What do you think spiritual people look like? Or what do you think to be spiritual needs to look like? For you to be spiritual, how do you need to act and be? And do you feel within yourself that you are a spiritual being? Now, so let's go over. First of all, you are spirit in human form. Everything is spiritual. Everything you are going through is spiritual. Everything, or you wouldn't be here. You would have just stayed with spirit up there and not bothered to come down here to do any of this. So, to be spiritual doesn't require you to look any certain way. Number one, you don't need to look a certain way to be spiritual. That's why, in the beginning, I used to be really particular about what I was going to wear because I was so conscious about how people were going to think, oh, she doesn't look spiritual because of what she's wearing. She's not wearing a white top, or, in the early days, like in my first YouTube channel, I always tried to wear white tops, and white loose flowing tops. And I was always conscious of what I was wearing, And then when I started this second channel, I caught myself one day thinking, but hang on a minute. It's not about what I'm wearing. It's not about the colors of my clothes or what my hair looks like, or it's not about any of that. It's about the message that's coming through and whether it resonates with you or not. It's that simple. To some people, my voice might be completely annoying. I've had people like that, spiritual beings that are with messages, and I just can't stand the way they speak. And I realize, well, they're not for me, because I have been working with lots of spiritual beings. We're all spiritual beings, but I'm talking about people that are, here to assist on the spiritual journey, because not everyone's here for this, Others do this through artwork, others do it through music, others are just here to have the experience, full stop. My husband's one of them, my daughter's another one. They have no intention of speaking to angels, or at least with my husband, no intention of speaking to angels or beings on the other side, or God doesn't exist. That's his beautiful human experience, but he doesn't stop being a spiritual being just because he's not out there talking to everyone about God and, you got to love God. And no, many of the breakthroughs I've had, and the very first breakthrough that I had that started this first book was a comment that my husband made. So this is what I mean about having expectations, that messages need to come through a certain way. And what I find funny about some of my spiritual friends is that if it doesn't come from nature, it doesn't come direct to them, they seem to think that it has no value, if all of a sudden they're sitting there and they're asking a question and this rainbow pops up or whatever, oh, you know, the stars have aligned. I'm receiving guidance from spirit. And yet, with some of my spiritual friends, I have noticed, but I just keep it to myself now, that we have had incredible breakthroughs with each other. And the way I see it is that spirit gave me that breakthrough through them, and I've given them breakthroughs through spirit. I just allow spirit to come through and say whatever it is it needs to say, whether it's going to offend them or not, because I know that they need this message at that particular time. And we've been through some really hard times together, you know, of the whole forgiveness process, of things that, you know, dark moments in our lives that we've worked through together, and you know, all of that. So yeah, I know many times that what they've brought through was exactly what I needed. And to me, I just see it, okay, spirit used them because spirit knew that I would listen to them, that I would take that in. See, I see everything as spirit. Not everybody does, but it is all spirit. Whether it comes from my husband, who doesn't believe in God, and he gave me this beautiful message one day that I'm still looking at my mother like I'm 5 years old. And that stopped me in my tracks that day. I'll never forget. And it came from him, which at the time I thought was the least spiritual person I knew. You know, my dad's an atheist as well, but I just thought, wow, that came from him. And that, from that comment, all of this came out. You know, who would have thought? So, expectations. When we have expectations that it needs to look a certain way, or it needs to happen a certain way, and we're waiting for it to happen that way, we may be missing that it's already come through. It's already happened. You know, maybe spirit has sent you 10 other people with the information, but you're expecting this lightning bolt from the sky to come down and hit you on the head and go, there's your information. This is what you need at this point. You know, if you are receiving the information, it's meant for you. So pay attention. Otherwise, you wouldn't be receiving it. You wouldn't have a stranger come up to you and say something to you if it's not meant for you. So, you know, what comes to mind when I think of that every single time is my daughter with her allergies. And we found a doctor when she was 5 and we did the tests, and she just didn't like him. She refused to go back to this allergy specialist. And I'm like, well, how do we know if the allergies are getting better or worse if we're not going back to get tested? And one day, that was when she was 5, she was 10, we were at this water park. And that whole week I'd been thinking, what am I going to do about her allergies? She refuses to go back to this doctor. What am I going to do? And we're at this water park and we're there with her friends. Her friends had invited her. They were on the water slides. They came back and her friends were asking her if she was able to eat this particular food in a packet, whatever it was. No, it wasn't chips. It was something, biscuits of some kind, that said it had trace nuts, and she's allergic to nuts. So they were asking her, do you think you'll be all right to eat this? And anyway, she brings the packet over to me, the friends, just to make sure. And I'm reading it and they're saying, do you think this will be all right with her allergies? And as they said the word allergies, I see the lady in this banana chair next to me prop up, you know. Anyway, the girls go, and I said, yes, it's all fine. Anyway, this lady turns around to tell me, your daughter has allergies. And I said, yes. And she said, how old is she? And I said, about 10. I think she was about 10 at the time. Going, 9 or 10, somewhere around there. She had a little boy that was 3 years old, and she was going to this specialist. And she told me about this specialist, and she said that this specialist does a desensitization program. And the original specialist that we went to see doesn't do that. He just, what's it called? Does the diagnosis. They do all the tests of what she can be allergic to, and then they send you home with a list of all the stuff you need, the claritine, the antihistamines, and the EpiPen. So from now on, you have to walk around everywhere with this stuff, right? Everywhere you go, because anytime it could flare up and, you know, you might need the EpiPens. Anyway, so I took down this doctor's number, I thanked her, random stranger, I've never met her before, she just overheard the conversation. And she was saying that her 3-year-old had had the prick test. They do this prick test, for those of you who know, you would know. They just use these little, anyway, to test all these different things, right, in your skin and see the reaction. So she told me that her son had done it like twice already and, you know, never cried, didn't feel it at all. And I thought, oh, because my daughter, I remember her tears. She just said it hurt so much when they did it, you know. And so I talked to my daughter and I said, can we at least try a different doctor? You know, at least give him a go. If you don't like it, then okay, you know. And she said, yes, we'll try it. I said, I'll go with you, because the first time I was in hospital, she had to go with Dad, right, with her dad. And then I wasn't there to support her to see what happened. I was just told all the stories after. And I said to her, I promise I'll be with you the whole time and you'll be okay. I promise. And lo and behold, they did the prick test. She didn't feel a thing, you know, and they started her on a desensitization program from a stranger at a water park. And I had just spent that week, 1 week, thinking about how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to solve this problem? So my spirit guides already knew where my energy was at. They already knew what I needed. They send me this random stranger to give me the information that I needed. It's that simple. But if you're looking at, oh no, it didn't come from, you know, someone with authority or with all these degrees on the wall to tell me that this specialist is the best specialist, you might have dismissed that, you know, as, oh, that's the sign I was waiting for. A new doctor with a new number, you know. I know originally when I started with this channel, there were so many people on Facebook saying, oh, you might want to think of getting a psychology degree or something. You know, people might respect more what you say if you have some kind of study behind it, you know, psychology or whatever it is, psychiatry. And I remember at the time sitting back and going, but Jesus was a carpenter. He wasn't a psychologist, you know. So many times messengers are sent so that people resonate with them. If you have all these degrees, all these diplomas, all these titles, people are like, oh, she's too far up there. You know what I mean? With her titles and with her degrees, and I just don't resonate with how she speaks or how she presents herself. Or, you know, yes, I could do the psychology. Yeah, I'm thinking about it just out of interest, because I'm so interested in how the human mind works and what they've studied so far, you know, of how the human mind works. But not because it's going to bring in more people or more people are going to believe in it, or if it resonates with you, it resonates. And if it doesn't, it's not meant for you. And it's that simple. And that was another message that I was going to bring in a later video. If it resonates with you, it is for you. And what does resonates mean? Because many people don't know what that word is or what it means. Resonates just means that it feels right, that you hear it and you go, oh, yes, yes. There's a knowing within that this information is for you. If it doesn't resonate, then the information is not for you. But you are here for a reason, and you are listening to these videos for a reason. Your soul brought you here. It's not coincidence. So there must be information in these videos that your soul wants you to remember. And it's finding what that information is. That is your task. That is what you're here for. So, you know, sometimes information will come through and it will sit with us and it's just not the right time for us yet. I think I would have been, I'm trying to think, before I was 30, somewhere between 25 and 30, I was reading the Conversation with God books. And I remember seeing Neil Donald Walsh on YouTube. Oh no, it might have been later. But I just remember one day seeing him saying there's only one of us in the room. And for some reason, it stuck in my head. It just stuck. Like, this means something for me, for my path. This is important. It stuck. And it wasn't until last year that the penny dropped. Oh, there's only one of us in the room, because it's all spirit. It's all spirit. Of course there's only one of us in the room when it's all the same energy that is in everything. There's only one. But look at that. That took like 30 years to get here. You know what I mean? Or 20 years. I haven't worked out the math because I can't remember exactly the time. But I'm sure it's been about 20 years. I'm not sure how long YouTube's been around because it was a YouTube video, but it looked like a really old recording, you know. But yeah, I just remember seeing that and it was just like, there's one of us in the room. What does that mean? There's one of us in the room. You know, it just stuck. And that comment from my husband I mentioned before, you're still looking at your mum like, you know, you're 5 years old. That stuck with me for about 6 months to a year. It stayed brewing in my head. What does that mean? What do you mean by that? You know, I didn't ask him, but all of these questions were coming up in me because it was important for my path to remember. Oh, I'm looking at my mum like I'm 5 years old. I get it now. I get it now. I haven't moved past that point of abandonment, that moment that I felt cast aside. I haven't been able to get past that point. So I'm still looking at her like I'm 5 years old. So, my beautiful beings, expectations of what spirituality should look like. Expectations many, many, many times get in the way. They get in the way. You're expecting it to show up a certain way. All the while, it could be the person serving you your coffee at the coffee shop that says something, and there it is. There was the information that you needed for your path. Remember, this is always for your path, not for anybody else. We're going to talk about this in the next one. But for your path, it'll be important for you. Or it'll be a stranger on the train, on the bus, at the water park. You'll have a question. How do I do this? How do I fix this? How? And they will send you the answers. But if you have an expectation, it needs to look a certain way. It needs to be a certain way. You'll dismiss it. All the while, it has everything you need right there in that moment. Right there. Just like all these videos. If instead of thinking about, oh, now my hair's purple. Actually, I did a purple wash through it because I was kind of bored of my brown. It's the only color that suits me. I can't go blonde. I've tried that. It looks awful. I've tried the red hair. Again, it just doesn't suit the color of my skin. And this time around, I was so bored with the brown hair. I thought, you know what? I'm going to go purple against my daughter's wishes because she's like, Mom, don't do the purple. Just stick with the brown. But she doesn't like change, so I can't really go by her. But she's right. You know, I went with the purple and then I thought, oh, should have just gone with the brown. It doesn't change who I am. I don't feel any different because I got purple hair. So, you know, some of you at the moment your eye might be twitching that, oh no, now her hair's purple. What has she done? You know. Oh, now she's wearing this bright green jumper. This bright green jumper is making my eye twitch. I always say it to my daughter when something's annoying me. I go, my eye is twitching. You're making my eye twitch, I say to her. And we always have a laugh about that. So it's not about what I'm wearing. It's not about what my hair looks like on the day. It's not about anything. Sometimes I get red rashes on my, today's one of them. It's when I've had 1 cup more of coffee than I need to. When I find I don't get enough sleep throughout the night, I'll end up at lunchtime having my 3rd cup of coffee. And that just raises my blood pressure and makes my neck red. So in case you were wondering what that was all about, it's 3 cups of coffee. If I stick to 2, I'm fine. But sometimes I just don't feel I get enough sleep at night. Very restless nights sometimes. I've always been like that. Always from little, I remember. I'd have a hard time getting to sleep. Now I hit the pillow and poof, I'm gone. You know, when I get to bed, I'm done. But I do have a restless sleep. I get up many times to go to the bathroom and my legs just kick. I know I'm a restless sleeper. But for you, it's really about, well, what's coming through? Does it resonate? Does it feel like this information is for me today? And some messages may not resonate at all. I might be talking about past lifetimes, and for you it's like, well, that's BS. You know, I was like that for a really long time until I had my first one, and then it was like, oh wow, these things are real, you know. And then I was like, okay, I'm gonna be open from now on, because I was saying to my beautiful friend in New Zealand today, up until I started talking to my spirit guides, that was in the unknown for me. And I have a feeling that even though now I'm talking to my spirit guides and I have this awareness of the spirit realm, and I've witnessed people passing from this life to the next, that I only have like 1% knowledge of what is in the unknown. You know, I feel like 99% is in the unknown and I'm not aware of what's in there. But to me, that's where all the magic is, because that's where my spirit guides were, you know, and I can't wait to keep unraveling what's in there, you know. And past lifetimes was one of them, and Reiki and feeling the beautiful energy, the universal life force energy, that was in the unknown. And that's all now part of my life, you know. So what else is in there? It's so exciting to think about. You know, what else is in there when we are open and we don't have all these beliefs that that's BS and that's BS and that can't exist and that's not real. But when we are open to the infinite possibilities, what else is there that we don't even know exists? That's where the magic happens. Right, my beautiful beings? So, expectations. Just be open with open arms. Bring it. However it needs to come in. Whatever I need, just bring it. I am open. All right, my beautiful beings. Another kiss. Remember to kiss. Remember to click like and subscribe so you don't miss any of the messages. And kiss like if you like. And we'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.